on Huples Cat. It's a sunny day in south central Ontario. A perfect day to practice a survival skill, an essential one for you. How are you going to drink clean water in a grid down situation? Well, you could buy a whole ton of these, and they're always a useful thing to have. Or you could use these or aqua tabs. I prefer these for various reasons, but they're more expensive. All of which is short-term single-use items, and once you run out, you run out. The LifeStraw Mission 12 is also a single-use item, but it works and it's easy to use and it's hard to contaminate the water you're getting out of it, and I've got good experience with this. This is my reserve one I bought. My camping one I've been using for about 4 or 5 years. It's still in use and it's still fine, but I wanted to have a secondary one. Many years ago I bought this. It's also a gravity fed system, which I like. The filter for this is in here, not in here, and they do give you some spare ones. The LifeStraw Mission filter is actually in the base of the bag, and I think that's a much better place to have it, and it's actually much bigger, and I think overall I prefer that idea because then you don't have to filter the water too much, whereas with the Renova system you're going to have to filter probably quite a bit. They also give you extra ones in the LifeStraw Mission, and I've not used one yet. The old one I pull out and clean it on a regular basis and it works just fine, so I think these will definitely outlast the filter. This is Renova filters. You also get a hydration bag to carry, and a method to turn this into a hydration pack. I got the Renova for a reason, but there's a big problem with it. If you're going to get a water filter, make absolutely sure it removes most bacteria and most viruses. And if you live where I live, make sure it gets rid of most protozoa. Beaver fever's no joke. The Renova claims 100,000 gallons. I doubt you'd get 100,000 gallons, call me a cynic. This one probably would get that, what it claims. The LifeStraw Mission probably gets what it claims. The Renova was pricey. The LifeStraw Mission 12 was pricey. I think for myself, having a source of clean water that's reusable day in day out for months to years is absolutely vital. But realistically speaking, none of these systems work. None of these systems are going to work 5 years afterwards, certainly not with daily use, are they? Of course, you should always have water stored up and ready to go. And I have the Berkey filter. I don't buy the negativity on them. Works for me, it's worked for me for almost 2 decades, I'm going to still use it. But as long as I have power, I have well water. My well water is fine to drink. And yes, I am looking at a manual backup for the well. It's something I wanted when we moved in here and we haven't got yet. Kind of important to have that. What I'm going to do today is actually show you how to improve your water resiliency in short-term and long-term grid downs in a way that's absolutely easy to do and can be delegated to small children. Even if you're like Louis in Puerto Rico and you think you're fine because you have thousands of gallons stored up, earthquakes happen, things happen, you might want to consider having some sort of a backup. And you may not want to spend any money. And the method I'm going to show you is free, good for the planet, simple. Gather a variety of containers. I actually did have a Coke bottle I found on the road and I was going to wash it out and use that. Unfortunately, Kitty spotted it and put it in recycling. So I'm going to use the sunlight to sterilize the water. So what I need is clear. This is glass. This is perfect for this. This is useless for this. This will not be good enough. It's too cloudy. This will work. Before I go out in the field, I'm actually going to prepare them for use. So I soaked them and scratched off the labels because you want as much clarity as possible. You want the light to get in. You don't want it to be opaque. You certainly don't want this. I'm going to use this one anyway, and I'm going to hold it this way around. But you really want to get some attempts to try and get this stuff so it's clear. And like I say, glass is better. You will absorb microplastics using plastic material because death from dehydration or death from enteric dysentery is worse. You're also going to need a fair number of micro towels and or t-shirts. Let's take one of each. And if you're a real prepper, you have lots of these. Rubber bands. For the SODIS method, you need glass that's transparent without labels on it. You can use plastic. For grid down, it's a long-term proposition. You want to try and use glass. You need a safe source of water. And by safe, I mean nobody's going to know that you're getting the water from that supply over and over and over. Be cautious, mix it up. Don't have patterns, don't use it at the same time of day or the same day of the week. Don't be predictable. You're also going to need an awful lot of containers. Think about this. You need about, well, let's face it, probably 10 litres a day would be nice of clean, safe water. So you need a lot of containers because when it's not sunny, you can't do this method. So you need to do enough of this method on sunny days to tide you over when there's no sun in the sky. If you live in Wales, I don't know what you're going to do. After about 8 hours of bright sunlight, you can drink the water. I would say do another 8 hours and turn the bottles over. And this again is why a child can do this, and this is why it's important that if you have children, you're actually going to use them as force multipliers, not just as dependents in grid down. Try not to get your feet wet. So that's going to take a while. Pretty straightforward method to put this on and drain it. So what I would suggest if you're using a shallow stream like this is to actually fill a container and pour the container on the top of it using gravity to help fill this up quicker, like so. Now you probably can see why I like to pre-filter the water. This will eventually clear and be drinkable by SODIS, but it's going to take an awful lot longer than this. The clearer the liquid, the faster the sunlight, the UV radiation, can sterilize the water. Now you're going to have to go upstream from all of your water sources to make sure there's no radiation leaks, oil leaks, or people are pooping into the water, or washing poop-stained rags in the water. You need to assume in grid down all the water's contaminated. I know mine's contaminated by beaver poo and deer poo, I know that. When you get to this piece, just throw it out. Yummy, eh? Use a micro towel. Now obviously if the water's deep enough and you just plunge it in and hold it, this is going to fill completely up, and I'd recommend that. And if you're dependent on a stream like this, dig a big hole and use that to fill up your jars. It'll be much quicker. Okay, so you don't have micro towels because you didn't buy them. This is how I transport the containers, sealed with the elastic band on. Take the lid off and then retrieve the elastic band. Have extra. Get an old t-shirt, in this case this is a kiddie's t-shirt. The smaller the neck of the jar, the longer it's going to take to fill. Bear that in mind. Okay, let's fill it up. So I'm using where the water's moving fairly fast to try and help push it into the container. Far too inefficient. Wide mouth required. You can see the difference with the t-shirt and the micro towel. Get the micro towels, they're not that expensive. Next time you're in the hardware store or Costco's or Walmart if you have to shop there, get a bunch of micro towels for SODIS. Collect jars like this, wide mouth. You can get glass. Plastic's going to be easier to transport and store. Have a method of washing, of laundering these and reusing them. Remember, this is contaminated now, as are my hands. I have to wash them carefully before I touch myself on my mouth. This is going to take a lot longer to clean, but we'll give it a go. Store the elastic band on the container itself. These will run out and grid down. Voila. They have to be in direct sunlight. This is not going to work. They have to have sunlight directly shining into them for at least 8 hours. I would recommend 16 or 24 if it looks like this. Obviously this is not a lot of water. I deliberately got it from a little stream. I have a pond right there. I can actually push this under the water and there, and that's how I would do it. I also have streams that are actually a lot thicker than this. But I just thought I'd try and make it a little bit difficult, a bit more realistic. Because in the suburban areas I've been at, a stream like this is what most people are counting on to get them through grid down. And frankly, with so many people in the area using this one stream and people up there pooping in it, you might be in trouble. Where can you store the water? How can you treat the water? Don't know if that came on camera, but a bird just came flying through. I'll start that again. That quite shook me up. So what you need to know in grid down is where your water source is, how safe that water source is to keep going back to without other people knowing you're doing it, how protected that water source is from other people's pooping in it and doing stuff like that, how you can collect water, how you can use sunlight to sterilise the water safely. Can you do it with enough containers so you will never run out of water? Now bearing in mind, and you should have already borne this in mind, what am I going to do in the winter? Well, I have a wood stove. The ponds may go solid, so cutting through a lake of ice to get water, it's not going to work. But I have springs on this property that come up all year round with fresh water, and that's what I would use if I had to use SODIS. When you're transporting stuff back from your water site, you can leave it at the site if it's safe, but put the contaminated towels into the bucket you use to pull water out, because that's all contaminated. That has to be laundered and sun-dried so it also becomes sterilised. So this isn't where I'd keep them, but I'm putting them here for now. They're only going to get late afternoon sun, so I'm going to leave them out here for a couple of days and then we'll see what happens. That's it from me, from a Canadian forest, trying to figure out how I'm going to survive if the world as we know it goes hopefully it won't. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Toodles. This video has been brought to you by Very Sleepy Terrier Production 2022.